Mr. Wagner, we are back for another episode of the Flippin' Sticks and Throwing Lead podcast. I think we're gonna make this short because we got to go deploy some trail cameras. So we are really. Yeah, I think I'm gonna stand up too here. We have another guest this week, which is great. We are gonna have Matt Streim from Weathered Oaks Game Calls in, and I'm just super excited to have him on because I think I'm going to ask a lot of stupid questions, but I think I'm going to also kind of talk myself into the fact that I'm going to kill a bird this year.
It sounded very good.
Yeah.
With full exposure or whatever we say.
Yeah.
We did record this already.
Yeah.
But it sounded good. It sounded good.
It was nice to, I love that we're having a ton of interviews and a ton of guests on this because we have a lot to learn, and it doesn't matter if we're 40 or 50 or 60 years old. We're still just trying to figure it out.
Well, that's 58.
Well, I know, but I was just giving an age range.
So it made me feel better so I wasn't at the top of the range.
Right.
Thank you.
Or 70. There's still 70-year-olds that are hunting. My dad has a lot of questions, too.
That's true. We should have him come, and I don't feel so bad.
Well, I don't know if we'd learn anything from him.
We'd have a good time, though.
We'd have a great time. So we kind of threw this together. We're pre-recording this, so we're actually recording on Wednesday this week, a busy back half of the week. And we had another. I need to start running a timer on my phone because we're looking and all of a sudden we're like, holy shit, it's 6:00. How long have we been talking?
Yeah.
Well, it's another hour and 10-minute conversation, but all really, really solid stuff. Different approaches for shooting birds, hunting birds, finding birds, locating birds. We talked about a lot of different things with that. And I think it helped answer a lot of questions because especially for the elementary turkey hunter, there's so many things that go into it that can be overwhelming. A mouth call, a pot call, a box call. How often should you call? How do you locate birds? Should you use one of those like crow calls or owl call?
Locator, yep.
I mean, there's so many different things that go into it that really can be a little overwhelming. We got some insight on that.
And you know what? I was thinking the way we interview people, I think maybe we'll let people know who's coming on. And if you have questions to send them in, because I think when we bring people here, we don't necessarily let them talk. I mean, we let them talk.
We need them to answer questions.
We bombard them. It's like, did you bring me here to talk about anything, or did you just come here to interview me and we ask the stupid questions? So
right.
I think that's how we almost format our interviews, as question bombardment onto the guest, and he can answer our questions, whereas he doesn't necessarily tell us so much. And we try to give him that little bit of time. Hey, is there something we missed or you want to touch on? But it seems like every time we have somebody, we ask the questions because of the fact we're such subpar hunters.
Yeah, but that's okay. That's what we're here for. Hey, it's our show, man. We got to ask the questions so that we have more grip and grins, hero shots, whatever you want to call it, man. So, well, I don't want to waste too much time with us just yapping because we had a really, really nice conversation with Matt at Weathered Oaks, and also full transparency, a good buddy of mine. We've both met Matt a number of different times at a winter get together that I have at my house, and we kind of dive into that a little bit because there was a little history of me like getting a call from somebody and I didn't really get it. And I'm like, this is stupid. Just give me the one that's sandblasted. And I know that when I grab my striker, it's going to work and I don't have to think about it too much. So give a shout out to Charisma Customs. And I mean, a day like today where we could have almost turned the air on in here because it was warm. People are thinking about their boats. People, there's ATVs that are coming out and all that stuff. So if you need to get your toys protected, take it to Charisma Customs. They do such a great job. And maybe it's a stereo for the boat. Maybe it's a stereo for your ATV, UTV, whatever that might be. But yeah, it's that time of year. Charisma Customs in Delafield, charismacustoms.com. I talk about them so much. I know their phone number, 255-20. No, 262-444-2525. I knew there was a 25 in there.
A lot of the summer toys are coming out now. So again, get it taken care of. Things that you wanted to push off at the end of fall, and now it's early spring going into summer. Hit them up good, and anything, throw it at him, and if he can do it, he'll do it.
Yeah. And then our friends at HHA USA, I think we're like T-minus 2 weeks until we go to our first event. Super excited about that. We're going to be going out to Vortex Optics. So I think the next couple weeks we're probably going to have to shift around, or maybe after, we've got this week taken care of. Next week, maybe we just hunt in the morning, come in, record a show, get back out there, do whatever. But the week after that will be Thursday, Friday, Saturday at Vortex Optics. There's a lot going on there. And HHA USA is a nonprofit division of HHA Sports based out of Wisconsin Rapids. They do this series throughout the year where they actually raise money for veterans and give them a healthy outlet to deal with some of the trauma that they've been exposed to, PTSD, and also for first responders. So it's a really, really cool organization. Go ahead and find them on Facebook, Instagram, wherever it might be. And maybe you can make it out to one of the shoots. They're all across the state this year. Similar schedule to what they had last year. So outside of Madison, one by La Crosse at Matthews, one in Wisconsin Rapids, Wausau area, and then also one in Green Bay. So a couple of the different options that you can get out to one of those events. So
Absolutely.
I don't know. What do you say we jump into it?
Let's go. Let's hit it up.
Let's do it.
In Wisconsin, the stories start before sunrise. They start in a deer stand, in a duck blind, on the front deck of a bass boat. Welcome to the Flippin' Sticks and Throwin' Lead podcast. With your hosts, Eric Tasker and former Major League pitcher Paul Wagner, this is everything outdoors. Hunting, fishing, conservation. The wins, the misses, and the memories that stick with you for a lifetime. Out here, you earn your stories, and we're here to tell them.
All right, Mr. Wagner. I promised you that we'd have some guests, and I think we're talking turkey this week with the man behind the call. So I have so many questions about turkey hunting, so I'm glad that we're going to have an expert on this week. And a buddy of mine that I've known for quite a few, Matt, I don't even know, it's probably been 3-4 years now that we've known one another. And I've always admired the fact that you're like, I'm going to do everything, and I'm also going to do everything really well. So you're a great deer hunter, you're a great turkey hunter, and you make really good game calls. So I have to first throw the praise out for that. But I wanted to welcome you to the show. We've been talking nothing but turkeys lately. So I want to just give you the floor here to start off the show. Just introduce yourself. What are you all about? And tell us a little bit about Weathered Oaks Game Calls.
Sounds good. And thanks for the compliments. I don't take them quite well, so it's always awkward for me to sit here and listen to that, but I appreciate it. I'm Matt Streim. I'm co-owner of Weathered Oaks Game Calls. I have a partner who likes to stay in the behind the scenes part of it, and he does a lot of the lathe work for us. And yeah, I mean, just making turkey calls and deer calls and elk calls and anything you can think of, we try to make a call for it.
Yeah. But you also run the Okayest Fisher podcast. So you're a hell of a fisherman too. So, I mean, you got everything going on. We appreciate you taking 45 minutes here or an hour to just chat with us knuckleheads and tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah. So I, as officially, December of last year, I officially host the podcast, the Okayest Fisher, by myself. Greg Tubbs, he was a co-host for a while. He stepped back, and we basically talk all things fishing, and we try to keep it very season relevant, mostly to the Midwest, but we have everybody and anybody on. Just had an episode launched this week with a kids book author where my daughter actually jumped on and she was a co-host with me. So
I saw
that one was pretty fun.
I saw that.
Yeah.
How awesome. Okay, so does she have a future in podcasting?
Me and her actually try to do it once a month. We have the Daddy Daughter podcast. Nothing that's ever going to get released, but she picks the topics and we talk for 8 to 12 minutes, just whatever she wants to talk about.
Yeah.
Super cool. Super cool.
Warming her up for a career in radio, I guess.
We could use her. We might hire her.
Oh, that's good. So give us the background. So okay, if I was looking at it, I would say, okay, I really like hunting turkeys. I think there's a lot of really good products out there. I think I can make something better. Is that where the idea of Weathered Oaks came from?
Kind of. It pulls out the cheapness in me. I didn't feel like dropping 120, 130 bucks on a turkey call. And me and my buddy looked at it and we're like, we can build this for sure for way less than that. And that's kind of how it started.
Yeah. You and I have talked about turkey calls for like ever. And I had a turkey call at my get together, I think it was last year. And I was like, dude, I don't know what's going on, but I have to condition this thing constantly. And it drives me nuts because I know what's going to happen is I am going to need to scratch, or I'm going to need to call, and it's going to sound like a trombone out there and the bird's just going to run away. So what do I need to do? And you're like, oh, you should really look into a sandblasted call. I'm like, okay, well, I'm intrigued by that. So I reach out to you and I'm like, hey man, I'm like still kind of trying to think about this, whatever. Well, then you're like, oh, well, we actually have this double-sided call. One side is slate. So you kind of get that like reverb and like sound of slate.
Which is my favorite.
Which is Wag's favorite.
That's my favorite.
And then the other side is sandblasted. So it's like always conditioned, I guess. I don't know. So what is that? How does that help a call? And I'm kind of jumping into some technical questions right off the bat, but I'm just really curious about that because I'm looking at it right now and it's a beautiful looking call, but I love the fact that it's sandblasted because that was the biggest gripe that I had with my call in the past was I had to have my conditioning stone with me and I felt like I could call and I'd have to recondition it right away.
Yeah, you basically do. I mean, I do like the sound of a straight glass or straight crystal call, but the upkeep on it is a lot more intense, especially if you're running and gunning and trying to get up on birds. It's in your pocket, you're rubbing some of that smooth and it just gets difficult. So that's why we decided to do a blasted glass, which on our calls, you can spin it all the way around. Any spot you pick on there, it's going to sound exactly the same as the other spot. And to me, everybody says slate's the good barrier to entry because it's really easy to call. Yes, it is.
Sure.
I prefer blasted glass because it's, again, less conditioning than even your slate call.
Okay. Wags, what do you like about slate calls? Is it just the sound? Is it the ease of use?
Yeah. I would say it sounds... There's no screech. It's consistent, if that makes sense. A slate call seems to be very consistent, especially for a low level caller like me, who's not competing, who I've eaten more turkey mouth calls than I've been able to use. So I've been, that doesn't work. I try blowing a bubble with it and I forget it's a mouth call and not gum. The slate just seems to be really easy, very forgiving, very beginner. It gives you a strong, maybe not the best, like you say, maybe not the best call, but it gives you a consistent call, I believe for me.
No, I mean, that's slate has its purpose. The other thing I don't like slate as much because on those dewy and damp mornings, slate will absorb moisture and it makes it that much harder to call. Glass does not absorb moisture, but we also give you slate on the back of our double-sided calls. To me, glass will cut through the wind if you're trying to locate a bird, And slate's like, you flip it over, you got smaller movements, and it's a little more subtle, and you can bring them in, when they're in closer. I feel like the slate kind of takes the cake on it.
Yeah.
I like the way it's developed. I think that's the way you did it. You did throw it. It is obviously maybe the size of a 50-cent piece, maybe a little bit larger than a quarter on the backside, but it gives you that option to flip and go back and forth. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think my whole thing was I'm just frustrated by it, and I like ease of use. Like, I'm not good at it, so I would like to just know that when I try to do something, it's not going to not make a noise. I would almost rather just make a noise than not make a noise, because that was the problem that I had, was like, I would just try and work around and like find a sweet spot. And then I'm like, well, now I need to remember that sweet spot that I had conditioned. And then it wouldn't work when I needed it to work. So I'm like, I'm done with this. Matt, give me the link. I'm buying one right now. So, all right, let's take it back a step. How or why did you get into turkey hunting?
It was something to do between ice fishing and normal fishing. And man, first time you hear a gobbler go off in the woods in the spring, it excited me for a different part of the season, which, most people bypass. I don't know, for, outdoorsmen, if you're not chasing walleye, you're out in the woods turkey hunting. When I'm in the woods, it's just a different feeling, having the woods and everything around you become new again, instead of in the fall, everything's dying off. I don't know. It's just, it hit me in the feels. It kind of sounds weird, but it's just an awesome time.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Right.
I definitely get that. I mean, there is truly something. I think I posted about it a couple weeks ago, and it was like one of those weeks where we had like super, super cold. We had a couple days of warm, and then it started getting crisp again in the morning, but the birds are waking up. And you open the door and let the dogs out, and all of a sudden you hear the birds chirping. There's like a little bit of that crisp in the air. You're like, all right, it's starting to come around, and things are starting to green up a little bit. And like you said, I mean, they're starting to come alive again. But you're exactly right. I mean, it fills a void for that. Like, you get really excited about it in March. April is turkey season. May is turkey season. Then you get into your open water season, obviously. I mean, so it's the perfect 6 to 8 to 10 week
bridge. It's a bridge. It's a bridge. And that's when things start to go. It starts to pop. We're starting to see, we can walk around and we can see it. It's starting to turn green, little things. We know as soon as that green comes up, all of a sudden your does are going to be dropping fawns pretty soon. It's just a perfect bridge into the fishing season that prepares us for fall deer hunting.
Yeah. So Matt, and I never know. I always have to pause, because when we do these recordings, there's a little bit of a delay. Last week was very awkward for Wags. He's like, you handled it so well. And I'm like, I'm just going to start talking. And if I talk over somebody, I'm going to talk over somebody. Right. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about strategy, because I think that is the biggest question for somebody new like me who's trying to figure it out. You can overcall, you can undercall, you can call too loud, call too soft,
call too much.
So if you had to summarize, what is the most important thing about calling birds, aside from it being situational? So there's a lot of different things that come into play with it, but what's your biggest thing you think about while calling birds that everybody should think about?
I'll step it back just a little bit and say not necessarily about calling birds, but about hunting birds in general.
Okay.
I gave a seminar a month ago down at the Sitka store in Illinois about turkey calling. And every seminar I've given before that and whatever, my first thing I always say is the best tool you can have in your tool belt for turkey hunting is your ears. You need to be able to listen to how those birds are acting, and that dictates how you're going to call to them and how you're going to put a plan together to try to harvest a bird. So you got to listen. That's always what I start off everybody with. So if you want, I could break that down a little bit more. I know I looked at some of the bullet points, and a lot of them roll right together pretty nice.
Yeah.
I think one of them was heard a gobble in a tree on the roost. What do you do? It depends. If you hear a gobble and you're already set up, did that gobble happen after you called, or is it just randomly gobbling? You always want to make sure they know where you are on the ground. So if they're randomly gobbling and you can strike off and they gobble back and respond to it, that's what you're looking for. And at that point, you don't need to keep calling. They kind of know where you are. And then the only call I would really do after you get their attention is like a fly down call to try to maybe coax them out of the roost a little bit earlier.
Okay.
So what we do, I don't know if you do this, but to get them to come out at that short little time of period where some are down and some are still up. I used to take, I don't know if you've ever done this. You probably have some. I used to take my hat off and just go, I'd wrap it on my leg, and it seriously sounded, and it works. It does work. And you might think, what the hell, Paul? But I've used my hat. I've actually pulled and just beat the hell out of my leg, and it works. Maybe you've never heard of that. Maybe you've seen it. Maybe you think I'm just a fool.
No, we do that quite a bit, actually. And it's, so if you're using a pod call with two hands, you can't really slap your hat, is we'll take our feet and ruffle them in the leaves on the ground to try to simulate that same sound. But yeah, it's crazy how effective that can be.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say, if you hear a bird gobbling in the roost, go run after it. Cause that's what I would do. Go find it and set up underneath the tree. That's good. I think that's, so that is one thing that I will say that Wags and I have talked about quite a bit, is that like in the past, we would just come out in the morning and we would like set up in the ground blind that he's got. And then you are like just hoping that things come together almost in a sense. Like, yeah, you can call and do all of that stuff, but we're going to actually like come out the night before and we're going to see if we can like be set up kind of somewhere and just see if we can get them going to roost. So we have an idea, which is like the next evolution in my turkey hunting, is actually spending the night before, like trying to scout a little bit and just seeing if you can get any indication, because I mean, there's a ton of birds around here, but whether or not they're actually roosting on the property or not has always kind of been a big question. I mean, you can hear them for sure, so they're within earshot, but is that something that you do? Are you typically going out the night before and just seeing if you can locate birds, or are you driving around kind of at that like after shooting hours almost and just seeing if you can catch them on the roost already? Or do you have a plan kind of for a night before scenario?
The night before scenario for me is getting to bed early, because turkey season drags on quite a bit. And I call for a lot of people, so we're up real early in the morning. The tip that we like to do, especially on a new property, is we'll get out there right at that gray light where they're starting to make noise already. And you just listen. You don't have to call or anything. Just listen. If you hear turkeys gobbling, then you make a move in that direction. That's kind of like my 2-minute scouting. And if you want to get them to gobble, slam your car door, something to startle them. They'll gobble, they'll fire off. And you can start to pinpoint where they roosted that night before. And you can kind of make a play, like if they're on the northeast part of your property and you hear them gobbling over there, you're going to know the property a little bit that you hunt. And you can just tuck away, follow a ridge line, take a tree line over there and try to get set up where you think they might fly down from their roost.
That's good, because on my property, the roosting timber is to the east. And the way it's set up around here with so many egg fields, they can fly out of that roost anywhere they want to go. And there's no rhyme or reason. So getting out at that gray light or a little bit before that, like you said, I think we need to make some noise. So instead of having them up in the tree, looking around, depending on which way they want to go, north, east, west, or south, or whatever, they can hear a little bit of sound early and say, you know what, this is our direction today. because if we get out there late and we let them play the way they want, it's a flip of a coin. They can land, they can do so many other things. That's where I'm not in the center of our property, isn't roosting trees and timber.
No, that's a great way to look at it too, is you're playing defensively then if you don't know where they are. And I even said, like, if you set up on a spot and never called, never figured out where they roosted, just blind set, yeah, there's a chance you might kill a bird in about 4 to 6 hours. But you got to be able to move, because those birds, although they do reset every night, it's not like whitetail where they keep running all night long. They fly into a tree and they sleep. You still got to figure out where they're sleeping. And then to me, it's really easy to move quite a bit to try to catch up to those birds or get ahead of those birds. But I don't like being behind out the get-go and waste an hour of time just trying to locate the bird. So I try to take care of that right away in the morning.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I mean, why shoot a bird at 7:30 when you could shoot a bird at 6:30? It's always amazing to me because the only thing that I have to go off of is just deer hunting. And it's like so many people will kill deer early in the morning because they're getting out of their beds and they're moving and doing all that. I swear not everybody, but the majority of people that I know will kill birds before 7 o'clock in the morning because they are doing it the appropriate way, so that they're not sitting out there for 4 hours hoping that, a bird will stroll out at some point, but, actually putting in the work. And that's kind of what I realized with my approach, or our approach, is there are other things that we can do to improve our success rate. And I think this year it'll be a little different because there are multiple people that will be hunting out here and we have some overlap with our weeks. But that's why I'm just excited to have this conversation. Is just, I know there are things that we could be doing, or that I could be doing specifically, that I'm not doing. And I just want to shoot one of these damn pea-brain animals and finally have a success with it.
Right. I real quick, I want you to comment on this. Do you think there's times when we'll sit out in the morning and we'll see a group come in with, maybe, let's just make up a number, 3 jakes. Then you come back in the afternoon and that group of turkeys, they're gone. Then the next group comes in and they go into roost in that southeast corner, and those jakes aren't around. So it's almost like they all have their patterns. So I can understand if you're not a morning hunter, you can also chase the birds in the afternoon. I mean, it's up to you, basically, like you said. Don't play defense, play offense.
Yeah, I mean, I can break that down in 2 different ways. You're going to see jakes randomly throughout the day because there is a hierarchy or a pecking order, and those jakes get the crap beat out of them. When the pecking order's already been established, so they're like, they don't come into calls typically. They don't come into tom decoys because they're terrified. I've even had like subordinate toms, not the boss tom, come in and not go full strut when they see a hen and a tom decoy because they're terrified because they're not the boss tom. You can kind of pick apart those attitudes, which is really interesting. So to me, it's almost harder shooting a jake because they're kind of like the satellite ones that are just roaming anywhere they want to go because they're trying to stay away from the group. But the boss tom, and usually a few other ones, have the little harem of hens around them, and they literally rule the roost. They rule the property they walk on until you shoot one of them. And then it's really cool to see that pecking order change.
They beat the hell out of him. They beat the hell out of him. You shoot him, they'll come flying here. Like, where'd those jakes come from? They'll come flying out sprinting, and they'll beat the hell out of that guy, and he's dead on the ground.
Yeah. Wow. What is the biggest mistake that beginners make trying to hunt birds? Is it that and maybe I can set you up for this a little bit, is it that they overcall? Is it that they call and it sounds terrible? Like, is there a way that it can sound really bad that birds just won't even react to it? I mean, because there's been times, I just posted that video this week of me just going and getting shot gobbles out of birds on the side of the road. So it almost feels like they'll react to a lot of things, but that doesn't mean that they're going to come in. So is it, an overcalling thing? Is it a calling poorly? Or I don't know, maybe those are some of the things that you've found or that you see with beginners.
Yeah, I would go as far to say as you can't really ever call too bad, because I had a hen that I thought was a guy across the field from me on public property sounding that bad until I saw said hen walk up. She had a bucket of marbles in her mouth, and I don't know if what happened, but she sounded like nothing I had ever heard before. So calling, you figure everybody has a voice, and my voice is different than your voice is different than anybody else's voice. Not all the turkeys are going to sound exactly the same. So I think you can't really ever call too bad. I haven't seen it yet. I'm not saying you can't, but the biggest
you
thing
haven't
for me
come
is,
and hunted with me yet, so
I mean, I'd be honest and say it for beginners, it'll be there. And this is hard for me to say because I'm a very impatient hunter, but be patient and don't be afraid. I think they just think they know what they're doing when they go in. Go in and just listen, take everything in. You know, you may pick up on certain things, but you just gotta be in the moment and just take it all in. And I think that helps, you know, even if you don't get a bird on your first crack, don't get frustrated if they don't fly down to you. Watch what they're doing, figure out why they went that way. It could be something you would have missed. Like, oh, they're going over that way because they don't want cut soybeans. There's a cut cornfield over the ridge and you didn't know that it was there.
right.
It's just all observation. I mean,
I've always heard patience, especially when you call and you get that initial gobble or two. The like you talked about pecking order or the boss Tom. Once the boss Tom locates this call said hen, he thinks, oh, why isn't she coming to me? So if you keep calling and he's going to say, screw that, I'm done. But if you call a few times and he gobbles, eventually, if you're patient enough, he's like, wait a minute, you're supposed to be coming up to me. That's when he searches and retrieves. Whereas if you keep calling, finally, he's just going to say, screw it, I'm going to move on to the next hen. Any real reasoning for that, or does that sound far-fetched?
so I've heard conflicting stories. So I'm going to stick with the story that I know and I grew up with, is that you're in theory defying nature, bringing a tom into you. They have these big, beautiful feathers. They puff up really big, just like other birds in the avian world, and they're able to draw in the females. So when you're actually getting a tom to come into you, you're going against nature. I know people will say, yeah, but, you know, sometimes if there's no toms around, a hen's going to go searching for a tom. Sure, I agree with that. There's also times where a tom can't find a hen. They're going to go looking for a hen. But the vast majority, you see those fields, that tom is all sprawled out. Those hens are coming into that tom.
So that is what he's waiting for. Okay. That makes sense. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Why have the pretty colors and the fancy spreads and the nice fan if you're chasing and not trying to attract? That's like a guy walking into the bar sharp dressed, man. Come on up to me.
Yeah. Yeah, we do that all the time.
Yeah. I come in there strutting and I clean out the bar.
Oh, that's good. Let's talk about, there's so many options in calls. So, but there's three real main different variations of it. So there's mouth calls or diaphragm calls, there's the pot calls, and then there's box calls. So maybe give us a little explanation on that, and maybe give like a strength or a weakness for them if there are or if there aren't. Because I think for me, I'm like, well, I just want whatever's going to be the easiest to use. So like, I'm not using a diaphragm call. I have 4 of them and I sound like a moron every time I use it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just not even going to deal with it, but it's hands free. So like but I'm like, I can't do it. So it's just not an option for me. Could you maybe break that down a little bit and just give us some of the like pluses and minuses for them?
Yeah, for sure. We'll start with mouth calls because you brought it up. The pro to that is it's hands-free. You can be really stealthy. You can have a bird 10 feet from you and still call, and they'll never see you moving because it's all with your mouth. Con is, like you said, it's not for everybody. There's different, top of your mouth gaps. There's, people with gag reflexes and dry mouths or whatever. I'm not
People
great
that
with
wanna blow
mouth calls.
bubbles with them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not great with mouth calls, but it is a tool I have in my tool belt. I can break that down a little bit later too. A specific way I use a mouth call. But we'll jump to box calls next. They are pro is they can carry quite a few, 100 yards away for sound. You can get some real finessey sounds out of them too. Downside is typically they're big. They're hard to keep in your pocket. You got to have chalk with you to keep everything tuned up. I don't know. To me, I've never found a way to close it to where when I walked, it wasn't trying to make like a little bit of a turkey noise.
Sure.
Right.
Which is, to me, a downside when you're trying to sneak up on something.
Yeah. I remember the first time that I came out, the first year that I had a turkey tag, like 3 or 4 years ago. And Wags comes out with me and he's like, I'm going to just like put this out the window. He's like, I don't know what the hell I'm saying, but I'm saying something to him. It's like my all-time turkey hunting memory. It's just that morning. You're like, I don't know, but I'm making noise.
Well, he's looking at me like, and I could see it in his eyes like, he knows what he's doing. And I just wanted to make sure no, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I like the box call. So what I did, like you said, is I've always taken my daughter's, like hair ties, and I'll put the hair tie on it. And I'm sure guys do it with rubber bands, et cetera, but it'll slide. Then you'll hear that piece of chalk bouncing around inside the cavity. There's just so many things, like you said. So yeah, it's a pro, it's a con, and I think it's a little bit easier too. I think that's a box call is much easier. I think it's just a quick scrape. It's a quick scratch. So almost like the yelper. What I really would love to have is a cane yelper. I'd really like that. Or you can get that cheap generic little box yelper. Rup, 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 like that. So again, I think boxes in general are for the beginner, I would say.
Sure. I agree with that too, but I've also seen some really good calling done on box calls. I just have nowhere near that skill level.
Sure.
Then, I mean, we can talk pod calls too. There's no one size fits all thing. Pod calls have pros. I feel like you can control it a lot better. You can be really precise with your sound. And it's more minimal movement than say the box call would be. And then the downside is still got to use two hands to do it. Not great when birds are in
more movement and yeah.
Then there's a lot more. Go ahead.
No. Go on. No. Go.
Oh, I was just gonna say there's a lot more variability with conditions. As a box call, you just put a little chalk on it, you're good to go. You got to make sure your striker is sanded down. You got to make sure your calling surface is, conditioned. So that's another one of the cons of the pot call.
Yeah.
So with those 3 calls, generically speaking, do you use a coyote call, a crow call, an owl call? Do you use any of those? I wanted to use this earlier. In that gray light, when you try to establish where they are, do you use your blasted glass, or do you use your slate, or do you go out with a secondary call, like I just said, a crow or an owl?
So I don't use locator calls. I don't know if it's the areas of hunted, or if they're so used to like crows, or there's not enough owls by us or something. I don't seem to get the response out of the birds that they do down south. I'm not saying they don't work. I think half the time when crow calls and more so crow calls, when those are successful up here, you're blowing the thing so damn hard. It's like they're shock gobbling because you scare the crap out of them just because it's a loud noise.
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
I just wanted to know, they seem to react here. We don't have many coyotes, so that's almost an irrelevant sound. The crows, but they will speak to the crows, or they will get upset. And there are an owl. Matter of fact, in the roosting area, there is an owl around there. And I didn't know if that would affect. If I have an owl coming in who's now in there, and if he's territorial, will that owl in those roosting trees that I used to have, which was very common, now that owl's there, will the turkeys avoid that area and look to roost elsewhere because there is said owl taking up residency?
That's a good question. And I would say if anything, they would be less vocal, because I don't know where you're hunting with the whole, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 square miles looks like. But if that's good bedding by food and by water, the turkeys will go back there. I think they just get a little less vocal. So the owl isn't able to like pinpoint where they are, just from experience.
Yeah.
And do owls? I'm ignorant to this. Are they afraid? Do owls attack turkeys? Yeah, maybe when the little guys are running around, late spring or early summer, the owls may attack them. But in general, I look at an owl. I mean, obviously strong claws. I mean, will that owl attack a turkey? Will it attack a tom? Will it attack something like that? Or are those hawks or red-tail hawks? Or I guess who is the owl a predator for the tom or the turkey?
Owls are predators when they're up in the roost, actually. Think of an owl, most of the time they're hunting at night using their eyes to their favor because they got great eyesight. They'll actually swap them, just run into them, knock them right out of a tree.
Really?
I've seen that before. Yeah, it's pretty insane.
That would be wild to see.
Oh, I know.
That would be awesome.
Granted, I don't think they're taking the 26-pound tom down out of a tree, but they're
right.
Well,
They got that
15-pound
flat
Jake.
head, so they just like battering ram them, I guess.
Yeah, well, you go
Yeah.
out there and you see him, his head spins around. It's like Exorcist. I'm like, how can you're looking that way and those owls just spin all the way around?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so are you a morning specifically, or will you hunt like all parts of the day, or do you have a favorite time to hunt? I'm guessing it's morning, but I don't know for sure. I mean, is there a favorite for you?
You'd actually be surprised on my answer here. I love hunting from like 10 to 2. That's my favorite time to hunt. Not at night, during the morning, between 9, 10 o'clock when they break off first like strut session. And you get the toms that kind of break off and they're looking for another group of hens to hang out with and party. So I like that because I feel like they're more aggressive. They went to bed with the hens the night before, and now that they're done with that group of hens, they're trying to find the ones they're going to go roost with that night. And I feel like it's a great opportunity because you have all the visual in the world. You can drive around, get up on a high knoll, and just look for birds. I think they're pretty killable, if not a lot more killable with less effort when it's between that 9, 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
That 10 to 2 range is more, like you said, more run and gun. So that kind of avoids my next question or answers it. If you're running and gunning and chasing between 10 and 2, there really is no time for a decoy. There's no time for a decoy setup. I wouldn't believe. I think you're just trying to cut them off or find where they're going, cut their paths off, try to give them in, just hide in some down trees, bring them over to you. I don't know if necessarily you would put a decoy. Maybe I'm wrong, but if you did, if that's the truth, and then if you do decoy hunt, and if you believe in it, how do you believe? Do you believe hen? Do you believe in a Jake hen, or do you believe in Tom hen?
That's a huge question to unpack. We always hunt from the ground. we never hunt from blinds, so we're always running and gunning. And we always have decoys with us, and it's very situational. Like if we're in a forest, I'm not going to set out 6 decoys, but I'll always have a Tom decoy with a feather, like a fan on the back of it, a legitimate one, not one of the fake plastic ones. And then I always have a calm, natural feeding hen. That's what I use earlier in the season. And if you're cutting off a bird, you can get lucky and, try to cut him off and pick the exact path he's going to walk. But 9 times out of 10, you're jumping a field in front of it or an open area in front of it where you think he's going. And you're going to have time to set up a decoy. Because if you're calling and a turkey walks out into an opening and doesn't see anything there, they have great eyesight. They're not going to come explore that field. They're not going to see any decoys. They're going to be like, oh, well, that was weird. I'm going to keep walking instead of walking out in the middle of the field with everything that wants to kill me all the time.
Yeah. That makes sense. I went with a feeder hen and a breeding, feeding and an not a laying down hen. So I didn't take that one. And I avoided the tom at first only because, and as cheap as this may sound, that's an expensive decoy. And if it's an avian egg, if it's whatever it is, it's it's an expensive decoy. So I kind of was looking forward to asking you that, how you do it. And that would be my next Cabela Bass Pro Shop point purchase. But I got the hens, and I always thought, okay, the hens should do for now. I've just always avoided jakes, and I don't know why.
Well, you want my little cheap trick to get into a tom decoy is they have the one I use is actually a mount that you would put on your wall in the off season that you can clip a fan in, so it's real flat, real low profile. And I don't know if it came with a stick or if I put a stick in it, but I literally stick that thing in the ground and it's toppy and turny enough where it'll kind of spin with the wind, and I can throw it in the back of my vest, and it's easy to pack out.
Yeah.
And they're a third of the cost of a full tom decoy.
Yeah. I'm sorry. If you see us looking out beyond the camera, there's this gigantic chicken hawk thing that's flying around, and it's like going to land any second around here. It's like, might fly through the window.
Yeah, something's dead over there. There's something's dead over there. They're chasing.
It's just
something.
so big, and it's right on the other side of the camera. And you would prefer, just to, I guess, kind of summarize that, you would prefer having some movement on that fan because it basically gives you the realism without having to do anything, just letting it blow. And as long as they see the fan, that's enough for them.
From what we've noticed, yeah. I mean, I usually do that. If we're on like that running and gunning scenario, I'll just throw out that tom decoy. That's because it's real easy to set out, and then I don't have to like blow it up or do anything crazy. And that has done well for us. And like I said, real easy to carry, lightweight, and it actually doubles if you're walking through an opening. You can crouch down and keep that like bird in front of you, the decoy in front of you, just in case there is something and you're trying to get to a different spot and try not to spook them out.
Yeah.
We do that over here to the north. There's like there's a decrease. For perfect example, to explain it easy, if you were building in a house, you could have an easy exposed basement. So we start from the top and we kind of draw down. And as you come, if you put that fan in front of you, you can almost scope that field without even really faltering anything. Because as you come over that lip, all they see is the fan, and you can kind of go left to right, and you can scope that field out for. Then that way we can move to the east, or we can pull back and then go back behind. So it is a nice tool. Absolutely.
Then, like I said, any tool you can add to your tool belt, man, put it in the tool belt. You never know when you're going to need it.
Yeah. Okay. So you've located a bird. You're calling, or you're kind of like trying to figure out what your approach is. The bird hangs up 60 to 80 yards from you. What's your game plan? Or maybe you need to set it up with, well, we were communicating before. How would you handle that situation, and what are kind of your variables there?
Sure. If it's hanging up in an open field where you don't have a decoy, there's a good chance that bird's not going to come in the rest of the way. If you have that situation and there is a decoy up there, if you have like a tom, it may not come in just due to the fact that it's not the boss tom trying to start a fight. But if you are in those situations where they're hanging up but they're not running off, what you can do is either, if you have a buddy with you, have that buddy walk 20 yards behind you and start calling again to give that essence of the bird, the hen walking away. And if you're by yourself, just turn your call. Kind of push it away from it and change that. Yep. Because it gives that little bit of a sense of urgency that hen's actually walking away, and he may come that extra 15 to 25 yards you need to make a shot.
Yeah. 60 yards, huh?
It's a poke. That's a poke.
Well, I'm shooting TSS this year, so we'll see what happens.
I got another one for you. I have free range chickens. Free range chickens out here by me. They sound at times like turkeys. But like you said, we all have distinct voices. Does a turkey listen to, on the overside of my apple orchard, does a turkey come into my food plot and go, that's those stupid chickens again? Because they do sound similar. And someone's going to say, no, they don't. When I walk in there to pick up eggs and I can hear them, they do sound similar. And I didn't know, have you seen any correlation of that maybe scaring turkeys away or vice versa, or just an irrelevant noise?
I think it's an irrelevant noise to them. Maybe if I can't say I've been in that predicament before. I mean, I've had pheasants in fields before cackling when turkeys were there, and it doesn't seem to bother them whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Because it's funny, because once those birds start coming out, like, I mean, usually they'll be out and about, while we're out there, and you can hear them from the blind or from the field. And you can just hear that.
And you can hear them scratching. You can hear them scratching the leaves. And I'm like, this might be like the real decoy that maybe if those leaves are getting spitted away and making some noise.
Okay, so the answer is it's only distracting for us, is what it is.
Turkeys know that's a chicken.
Oh, that's good. Okay, what if I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to position this, because this was just like a whole bunch of questions. I got this no gobbles at all. So maybe you spot a bird, but there's no communication there. Is there something you can do to try and change that strategy? I guess this would probably be more of a field edge or open field scenario. I mean, I guess timber as well, but is there a way you would handle that scenario?
For sure. We have birds go silent all the time. Even if they gobbled a bunch on the roost and flew down and they got real quiet. I don't know why the bird's actually doing that. I have some theories, but what I like to do is you cut your calling in half, and instead of listening for something, if you can get eyes on him, if you call and he picks his head up and like points to you, he hears you. He just may not want to he may not want to come in hot. He may have gotten burnt before. What I think it really is he's protecting himself, because if he hears all that cackling, all that noise, there may be a tom over there. And I'm basing this a lot on if it's not a boss tom. Boss toms are in a different league of their own. I feel like the ones that get real quiet are either trying to protect themselves, either if it's walking through a tight area where they're not, where they could easily get ambushed by a coyote. They're not going to announce their position until they're in an open field, or they, does it make sense what I'm trying to say? Like, it makes sense in my head.
Yeah. No, that's totally fair. Yeah. Well, it makes sense, because if they're hesitant about what they hear, and maybe they have been getting their ass beat by this boss tom, maybe they don't want to make noise to come out, and maybe they're just approaching wherever that sound is coming from and just trying to have the visual of it. So that's fair. But then they also don't want to expose themselves to predators, because, I mean, there's foxes and there's coyotes and there's a lot of different things that could go after them.
Or
So
maybe they have a hen there. They're comfortable. There's no reason to. You know what? I'm happy right here. I'm just waiting for her.
Right.
As soon as she drops to the ground, I'm gonna get going.
yeah.
So maybe he's just comfortable and doesn't need to come after another hen.
Yeah, it's actually funny, because the bird I killed last year, I didn't hear it gobble once. So it was two or three toms kind of hanging out together. I saw them. I set up a decoy. I set up the tom decoy, which turned out to almost be a mistake. I did a couple calls. I saw all their heads pop up and look at me, and then they just kept walking. They stayed out of my eyesight, and 15, 20 minutes went past, and I was actually seriously contemplating about getting up and moving spots. And they actually did a big loop around where they could keep the field edge that I was sitting in. Like, they came for cover. They didn't come sprinting across the field. They went all the way down, crossed the creek, came all the way back up, and they were 8 feet in front of me, very slowly walking towards that tom decoy. They didn't like that tom decoy, so they ended up like starting to run off, and that's how I ended up getting mine this past year, which was interesting.
That's kind of cool with the quiet ones, because not you, but when I had another guy out last year, And to the north of the field, north of the decoys, they were making noise and they were running around, and we didn't hear any gobbles behind us. And behind us, you got to cross the street, you got to come in. But all of a sudden, we were focused all to the north and to the left side, and all of a sudden, this Tom came quietly, didn't gobble one time, and was coming in from behind. And he wanted to know what the hell was going on, what all this commotion was. But he was silent. He was silent. And he was the one that Timmy ended up shooting. That's the one he shot because he was quiet and he came in, and these other guys were running around, and he kind of snuck in to see what was happening.
No, that's awesome. Like, I always hear people say, "Oh man, I didn't get to hear it gobble and come on in on a string." And I'm like, I would rather not hear a bird and kill a bird than hear a bird and not kill a bird.
Yeah, because you go through all the adrenaline then of, oh yeah, I think this is going to come together today, and then nothing happens. You'd almost rather the anticipation build when your finger's on the trigger and go from there. Are you a shotgun only guy for birds, or will you pull the bow out and try and kill one that way? Have you killed a bow bird?
Yep, I've killed a bow bird. I'm kind of weird. I like to get one under my belt right away, and I just take the shotgun out, and then usually with the birds after that, or my tags after that, I go with the bow. This year, I might go with the bow first. I got to challenge myself sometimes. Like, I got to get out of my little normal thing.
Sure.
But yeah, I might take the bow out first, or my second period this year.
Yeah, I think I've heard that from a lot of people, and I guess my mindset when we had the blind set up was, it's like 100 feet to walk from the truck to the blind, so it's easy enough to just throw my backpack on and have one in each hand and take both with me, and then I could do whichever one actually works out.
Right.
But now I'm like, okay, I just need to shoot one of these damn things, and then I'll worry about killing it with the bow, because I just want to be able to, get that done first. And I think a lot of people that I know that have multiple tags and like I'm period B and then period E, hopefully everything works out in period B and I can do whatever I want for period E, so
yeah.
I think that seems to be like a growing consensus, or maybe more and more people are starting to do that. They want to knock one out and then they worry about shooting one with the bow and really actually challenge themselves. So that's awesome.
I think the other thing with me too is I primarily run and gun. So for me, it's so much easier to tuck into a log that fell down with a shotgun rather than a bow, because I got to make sure. I mean, I do 90% of deer hunting from the ground, and it takes quite a bit of work to clear out an area to draw your bow back in. Like I said, I might just pull the trigger and just go out with my bow and make it work. But I think if I go out with my bow, I'll be a little less mobile. It'll be more sitting and waiting, which will probably kill me because I'm not a patient person.
Drive you nuts. Yeah. That's fair.
You say you like to challenge yourself. Do you find that the seasons vary? Obviously, the first two seasons generally seem to be anxious times. They're ultra aggressive. They're coming out of that winter program. They're there. The later seasons, they're a little bit harder to find. They're a little bit. So do you test yourself by liking and trying to harvest as late as you possibly can, knowing that, or generally speaking, people always say the later the seasons, the harder it is to harvest?
They are 100% right. The later in the year, they've seen every call, decoy, every bit of pressure. They're on the tail end of what they need to get done. We've hunted, E and F periods before where there's hens and a bunch of little turkeys running around, little poults running around. So it's a different aspect. It's a lot less calling, a lot less decoying, and a lot more of patience and slow crawling stalks to try to sneak up onto them when they're in the field. But I believe, don't quote me on it, I think I've killed a bird in every single period. And usually like that Memorial Day one is always our camping trip, and we just have a good time chasing really hot, sweaty birds, because by then it's really warm out.
Yeah.
And then come back and have a nice cold cocktail.
Yeah. Exactly.
Hopefully there's a shower at camp. Okay, I mean, I think we kind of ran through a lot of things. I think this is so funny. Personal coaching. I'm year 4 with no bird. What 3 things should I change immediately? Well, I think I have a good idea of what I need to change. I need to be a little more mobile and a little more like adaptable to the surroundings. But I think the biggest change this year is going to be spending that time the night before trying to locate them in the roost and just at least being able to kind of position off of that. I mean, I don't know. That's what I'm saying is the biggest thing that I need to change. I think that will.
I do. Go on. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. I would also say don't put all your eggs into one basket and don't get like down on yourself if the plan you think the night before is going to work out perfectly, because there's a 99% chance it's not going to work. And you just have to have
love that.
Well, no, it's true, man. It's true. You got to have contingency plans. You got to have, a B, a C, and a D plan, and don't be afraid to do it. Like that's the biggest hurdle I think too. Some people don't do is like, no, this works. Why isn't it working? I'm frustrated. I'm gonna go back to the truck. It's like, no, if you got 6 hours to hunt for 6 hours. Like, make it work. If you don't get anything, you'll learn something in the process.
Correct.
For sure.
Correct.
Yeah. I think that is really good. And that's something that I need to remember because like I'm so bad, Matt. Like I'll go sit in the same tree for 9 straight days. Like I don't even care for deer hunting. Like that's where I feel safe. That's where I feel at home. And then last year I was like, okay, I'm seeing the same 6 deer. Yeah, it's great to see deer every day, but I don't want to shoot this like whatever fork or whatever. And I've seen that deer twice a day for the last 5 days. I need to move. So I did that last year. And I think it all started with turkey hunting out here last year. I remember there were 2 birds that came in from the corner of the field. I saw them. They hung up at like 70-ish yards, and I saw them just turn around and they ran directly out. And I was like, I thought to myself, okay, it's now or never. Either you're going to go chase these stupid ass things or you're not going to shoot a bird today. So I was like, the hell with it. Grabbed the shotgun and I like sprinted around and I tried to get eyes on them. And I'm like, okay, it didn't work out. But for me, it was like a huge stepping stone because I'm like, okay, it didn't work out, but that's okay. Just go chase them. Just what's the worst that's going to happen? They're probably already gone. At least maybe you can locate them, get eyes on them, and see what happens. So I can very much appreciate you saying that because most of the time it doesn't work out. so we're totally fine with that. But just knowing that, like sometimes you just got to adapt, and sometimes it's not going to work out the way that you want it to. And if it does, it's a miracle.
And I like the fact that you say that 10-2. If we can, I think maybe we change it up as we think, as we talk and waste your time. We start in the woods, in the timber, find out where they're coming out. You can always revert back to the field. They're always going to come to the field at some time, but there's so many options for them. Let's just say there's 5 or 6 options of flight pattern. Man, if they don't choose our field, we just wasted all that time. So we can go out there and we can find out where they go out and we can circle back to them. Maybe you hike, 600-700 yards and then try to cut them off and see where they're going.
Oh, no, for sure. And the other thing to keep in mind too is like, it's not like deer hunting. It resets at the end of every day. You could scare those birds so bad, they're still going to go to roost at night. And then they're going to fly back down in the morning. They're going to be in the same spot all night long.
Yeah. And do they typically, and this might sound like the stupidest question you've ever heard, do they roost in the same tree every night or do they just roost wherever they can find a spot?
I wouldn't say the same tree every night, but I guarantee you they're going to have 3 to 5, depending on the property, core areas of trees they're going to stay in.
Okay. All right. So like 5 kind of, okay. So if we can at least kind of
get that
pinpoint
area.
them, we can find kind of like a general area. So maybe we'll start doing that before our season and like even just coming out like as the birds start to move in. So Wake's property is kind of interesting because it is surrounded by so much ag that the birds typically come into the area like right around now.
You're right.
So like we don't really get much intel in advance of the season. And that's why we're going to like run and put cameras out and everything just to like try and figure out like what is actually going on here. Cause they stay away for a long time until that like second week of April. And then all of a sudden things start to kind of heat up and then there's a lot of birds, but it's just a matter of kind of timing that a little bit. So locating them and pinpointing them, I think will help a ton.
Here's one too. When you take guys out all the time for hunting and you're calling for them, here's a question that I've had. Is it just unethical or is it just a no-no, or can you shoot a bird out of the tree? Can you shoot a bird out of the roost? Is it just frowned upon? I've always heard also deer hunters, when you're walking out and you see a deer bedded, you never shoot a deer just because. I mean, I know you can. You don't shoot a deer when he's bedded down. I mean, is that a no-no, or have you ever shot a roosted bird, or can you?
So I was on a podcast 5 years ago, and I looked up the rule then. I'm 94% sure, because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. If the bird is in the roost and it's legal shooting hours, you can shoot it out of the tree. My thought process on it is I love playing the game of chess. I'm not just going to tip over the king while it's still in the box.
I would. Yeah, that is totally fair, though. That is totally fair.
I have a buddy, and he, at rest in peace, he has passed away. And we followed these birds. We run and gunned like you did, and we found it. And we found this pattern where they would come in, and then we knew they would roost. So we were sitting right on this tree line, and we knew kind of how this valley went in. And they would all funnel in, and they would do it. And we were sitting there, and we had these birds, and we were sitting there waiting and waiting. Sun was setting, and it was beating on us. We were hot. We're sitting there, and those birds were probably about 40 yards from us. We're getting all ready, and all of a sudden you hear they start flying over the top of us. And I look over at Tom, and I go, no way. And I go, no way. And I look down, and all of a sudden I saw this Tom. The last Tom goes up, and I see him land, and I put my head down, and I go, what are we going to do? And all of a sudden I hear, boom. And I look up, and he goes, ba-doom, 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 and he came down. He was so upset. He was so upset that we wasted all that time, and those things took off and flew right over our heads to roost. It was still legal shooting time, and he said, nope, I'm taking them.
It's kind of like swatting for waterfowl. It's something you can do, but you shouldn't do it. It's like kind of frowned upon within the waterfowlers, the very serious waterfowlers. Okay. I mean, I think that's pretty good. We got a ton of information here.
Yeah.
I love talking to people who are better hunters than me, which is most people.
Me too. That's what we do. And we always take the conversation because we ask stupid questions, and you're like, I thought you brought me on here to answer questions, but relevant questions, not dumb ones.
Matt, I'm sure you've heard a lot of questions about turkeys. Well, I don't know if there's anything you want to chime in with, but I do want to kind of give you the floor. If you want to plug where to find you, plug the podcast again, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. I will also include it all in the description, but if you want to just shout it out right now, you're more than welcome to.
Well, before you do that information I want, is there something that we didn't ask you that you think in podcasts prior, or people prior, or hunters prior have asked, and you've seen scenarios that we didn't bring up that are pretty important? Please feel free to straighten these two idiots out.
No, I mean, you guys may call yourself idiots, but you did a great job of asking a lot of well-rounded questions. Obviously, not every flock of turkeys is going to be the same. Not every Tom is going to react exactly how we discussed here in the podcast. Like I said, the the most important thing, and I get laughed at for saying this, is your ears are your best tool. You match, it's like matching the hatch when it comes to fishing. If you got a hen that's really vocal, guess what? You're going to be more vocal than that hen. If you got a hen or a tom that's, a little antisocial, be antisocial. If you're antisocial, I don't want to run up on somebody that's talking their head off.
Yeah.
I try to relate a lot of it to that human-y stuff, but it works. It's just use your ears and just, be an outdoorsman. Pay attention to small, minor details. Look for turkey tracks, just be observant. That's the best tips you can give for, turkey hunters.
For sure. And, just to add on to that, I think everybody just really needs to enjoy this, because I think the one thing that I've really grown to appreciate about turkey hunting is that it's so much less about all of the characteristics of a bird, and it's just shooting a bird. Like, yeah, it might have a 10-inch beard or a 12-inch beard, or it might have longer spurs or whatever. People care so little about that. They just want to shoot a bird. I love, love, love that about turkey hunting. Yep. As opposed to like, oh, well, what did your buck score? Or like, was it an 8-pointer? Was it a 10? Like, there's so many things that are very visually appealing with deer hunting and shooting bucks, as opposed to birds. I think that's such an overlooked characteristic of turkey hunting. And it makes me love that season just so much more, because it's so much less about all of the other kind of inches and measurements and all of that. It's just like, I don't care. I just want to shoot a bird.
Yeah.
And
I love, I don't need to know this about, I love muskie fishing. I'm not a muskie fisher on lakes. I'm not a paddle. I'm not a floater. I'm not a sucker. I love muskie fishing down rivers, and boating a 45, or even seeing a 42, a 43, a 45-inch muskie. The first question they always ask, was it a 50-incher? No. Oh, really? I tell you what, you hold a 45-inch muskie up, it's pretty damn good. Hey, was your walleye 30? What's the going? You got to have a 30-inch, 10-pound walleye before you mount it. No, I caught a 26-inch walleye. I mean, it was beautiful in the spring. Would you it spawned out? Oh, well, it wasn't 30, so it doesn't matter. So here's the turkeys. We shoot the turkey. We love it. Yeah, so what the beard? So what? Every spur is generally 7 1/8 of an inch, but that's just what it is, and so many things are determined by numbers on everything else.
And it tastes good in the slow cooker in the crock pot. So that's always a perk.
And the 5-pound bass or the 10-pound bass, whatever you want.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Matt, the floor is yours, man. Where can everybody find you? How can they reach out to you? Where do they DM all the stupid questions to? And kind of the floor is yours, man.
Yeah, thanks. It's weatheredoaksgamecalls.com, our website. It's pretty up to date on being stocked. The one thing I preface by saying, what's on the website now, and once it goes out of stock, we're done building turkey calls for the year. We get out and turkey hunt. So whatever we have left in stock is what's there for the year until next season. It'll be the same thing, Weathered Oaks Game Calls on all this, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Reach out on any one of those. And then the Fisher podcast is the Okayest Fisher podcast. Same thing on all the general Instagram. We don't have a TikTok, but Instagram, Facebook, get it wherever podcasts go out. And that's part of the Okayest podcast network. So that's my spiel.
Yeah. Well, awesome, man. Well, Matt, I know this kind of came together quick, and I'm glad that this worked out. And it's even weird for us. I feel like we should be drinking cocktails, because normally we record at like 9:00 in the morning. I was like, well, what about after work one day? I know it's not easy for you to break away during the day. So let's just do it after work one day. I feel like we should have a bourbon or I don't know, but
we probably will.
We probably will. So, well, good, man. Well, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks again for listening. As always, to our guest, Matt, I appreciate you coming on, man. I know we had a lot of questions, and I mean, I could talk to you forever about it, but I'm glad that I've got one of your calls now. We're going to put this out, as you know, find us wherever you watch or listen to podcasts. but it will be delayed. We're going to put it out on Friday just to kind of keep our consistency of everything that we do. So I'm going to just rip the Band-Aid off. We could not record on Friday because Eric's getting a half sleeve tattoo on Friday. So I had to reschedule some things, and I finally heard back from my tattoo artist after sending him 9 unresponded to messages. So I'm going to just schedule everything and we're going to just get it taken care of. Matt, it's part of my midlife crisis that I'm going through as a 40-year-old man this year. So I'm kind of just doing anything and everything at this point. So, what's that?
I said, rock on, dude.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, everywhere you can find it, like, subscribe, listen, watch, leave comments, and go follow Weathered Oaks wherever you can find them. So for Paul Wagner, Eric Tasker, it's been another episode of Flipping Sticks and Throwing Lead podcast. Thanks again to our guest, Matt Streim at Weathered Oaks. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.